It's the connection is going up.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a live stream.
Okay.
And then once it gets connected, I'll hit the record button. We should be good.
Okay.
All right, Madam Chair, we can start.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jane Potter, and as chair of the La Jolla Shores Plan District Ordinance Board, Advisory Board, I'm calling the meeting to order. We are a volunteer advisory board appointed by the mayor. Excuse me, and our duty is to review all applications for permits referred to us for residential development within the La Jolla Shores Plan District, and to submit our written recommendations within 30 days to the city. I'm going to do a quick roll call. I think you're all here, but if you could just say here. Board member Andrea Moser.
Here.
Board member Bert Lazarow.
Here.
Board member Kathleen Neal.
Here.
Board member Phil Wise.
Here.
Bill member Suzanne Weissman.
Here.
Also joining us today from the City of San Diego Planning Department is Senior Planner Marlon Pangilinan. Before we get into today's agenda, I'm going to call on Marlon to go through a few comments and guidelines for today's meeting.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Marlon Pangilinan, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. I'd like to take this time to inform the board members and meeting attendees about the meeting functions on the Zoom application that we are using to hold our online virtual meetings. Please note the buttons on your Zoom control bar appear at the bottom of your screen. On the menu, starting on your left, is your microphone icon button, which allows you to mute and unmute your audio. Please remember to stay muted when you are not talking and to unmute yourself when you speak. The next button to the right of the microphone is your video camera icon. You may choose to activate it or not. You will also notice the chat window button, which looks like a dialog callout, activates the chat function. Please keep your chat window, which will appear to the right of your screen, open at all times, as you will be using the chat function to signal when you'd like to speak. For members of the public wishing to speak during non-agenda public comment or to provide public comment on an agenda item, it includes a raise hand or clapping hands feature. Simply click on the reactions button on the Zoom menu and click the raise hand feature or select the clap hands feature, and either the chair or I will recognize you to speak for a limited time determined by the chair. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, we have a lot to get through today, so we're going to go right to approval of the agenda. And one item, action item B, is now going to be information only by request of the applicant. So that is the change, and that will be what we'll be approving as part of the agenda.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to also add the applicant to clarify that at this time, they're only seeking input on the design, and they anticipate that they will return seeking a formal recommendation at a future board meeting.
Thank you. Do I have an approval for a motion for approval of the
Madam Chairwoman, this is Kathleen Neal. Could I make one change?
Sure.
Okay, so on the agenda, I think it's listing item B as 2421 street number, and I think it should be 8421 street number.
Well, that is one of the reasons we're making this an information item only.
All right, very good. Then I withdraw.
Yes, thank you for noting that.
I withdraw my request to amend the agenda, and I'll make the motion. We approve the agenda
as amended with the information item and only. I don't know. We might want to change the address on the information. I don't know, Marlon.
That's fine with
Let me ask
the amendment that it is now an information item for that property on Whale Watch Way.
That's how it passes muster with Brown Act. Okay, who wants to second it?
Second.
Thank you, Sue. All right. Thank you. let's go on to approval of the minutes from September 21st. We have, I think we should just go to the latest version, which is Kathleen's. Thank you, Kathleen. And I'm hoping everybody got a chance to look at that today. It incorporates, well, it incorporates her suggestions, first suggestions, a suggestion from me, and I think, excuse me, let's see. Well, we had a suggestion from, gosh, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name.
Hillary Lowe.
Thank you, Hillary. Yes. And I think there's something in there from that, but I can't be sure. So that's what we're starting from.
Should, excuse me, Madam Chairman, should we do a quick read through so that it's clear on the record, since that wasn't circulated except by me without the benefit of Marlon?
I'd rather not take the time to do that unless it's
Okay.
Has everyone seen this on the board? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And
Where's the wrong one? Where's there something in red? All right. All right.
The red is on the second page, and it has to do with the height of that side, just that phrase that that Bert wanted placed into 7982 Roseland Drive.
79, is it 82 or 88?
I'm sorry, it's 88.
Drive.
No, you're
Hillary
correct.
Presented, yeah. Okay, I know it looked good. I just,
any other Marlon, is that we'll send it to you after that copacetic. Okay. We'll send it to you without the comment between where is that? Without the comment between board and member in the first sentence. So that's my only correction to the corrections. Everybody okay with that? Okay, do I have a motion?
So
when
moved.
will we get minutes from October?
We did not have a meeting in October, despite the fact that there have been many changes to when the next meeting is on these minutes. We didn't even have a meeting, which I find very funny. So we did not have a meeting due to lack of projects. Not
Right.
due to lack of
Yeah,
a
we
quorum,
didn't, that's right,
lack of
okay.
projects.
I'm
Okay,
losing track.
I understand. Okay, do I have a motion, or did I already have one? I can't remember.
So moved.
Okay, second, anyone? Bill, thank you. All right. We will go on to non-agenda public comment.
Madam Chair, you need to take a vote.
Oh, thank you. You know, I had to spend 15 minutes before this meeting updating my Zoom to get into it. So I was like, it said you can't enter this meeting until you update. So I'm trying to recover from that. Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to vote. We can vote. You're all in favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going on to non-agenda public comment. We have at least, my knowledge, 2 items that we need to address. And Marlon, I'm going to hand it over to you. We have the Prestwick item and the discussion of Bulletin 621.
Right. So at our last meeting, I forgot the specific address, but the project that was on last or September's. Yeah, September's meeting. Wow, it's been a while. The Brunswick project was withdrawn because the applicant had mentioned that they were under the 10% threshold and didn't need to come before the group. So the advisory board had asked some clarification as to when projects are triggered or sent to our group. And Bulletin 621 was mentioned that any of the criteria that would apply in terms of a project meeting them or not would typically be sent to the group. So I clarified that the threshold will always be for projects to come before the group to require a recommendation would be if the project exceeds 10% of the existing floor area. So that's always the threshold or the trigger that sends projects over to the advisory board. I did speak with DST staff, and they also had clarified that the criteria that are mentioned in Bulletin 621 that are mentioned in that bulletin are also the criteria that staff typically takes a look at, and they can also make a determination to send a project to the advisory board, regardless of the 10%, whether or not some of those criteria have issues with the project or the project has issues with those criteria. So it can send the project to us. And that's consistent with the PDO that does discuss that projects can be referred to the group for just, that reason. And in my discussions with the applicant on the Presswood Drive project, they were not referred to us in any way via DSD. And they just said, oh, we just thought we'd have to go before them. So that's why they were withdrawn, because one, they were under the 10%, so they didn't trigger that requirement, nor did DSD look at their project and determine that they needed to come before our group. So whether or not they will come in the future, we don't know yet. I did ask the applicant to ask whether or not DSD did review their project and they do need a recommendation from this board. And so that's still to be determined. But at this time, it wasn't referred to our advisory board to review at this time.
Thank you, Marlon. And then were you also?
Yeah. Yes.
Excuse me, may I ask a quick question before we move on?
Yes.
Thank you. So in this case, with regard to Prestwick, you're saying to me that that although the 10% is a hard and fast rule, staff at DSD has the ability to make the decision separate from that, overriding the 10%.
Yeah, the DSD is the final determiner on the project, whether it's minor or major in scope. But I thought you were going to say that despite the 10% trigger, staff can still refer a project to the advisory board if any of the criteria are in question.
Right, and the criteria we're discussing are Bulletin 621.
Correct.
Right, and so I think what you're saying to me with regard to Prestwick is that even though there is a question about visibility of the addition from the public view corridor, meaning from the street, and the fact that it's a second story, neither of those aspects troubled DSD at all.
We don't have any word on that review because the applicant hasn't gotten back to us in terms of whether those are issues for the criteria. So it's
I see. In other words, it was just a premature thing that it ended up on the agenda.
Yes.
It's not really that DSD has made a decision whether it belongs on our agenda or not. It's just that it was premature.
That is correct.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And there was one more other thing, Madam Chair, to follow up on, and that was something that Suzanne had raised in terms of the LDC updates regarding FARs in the La Jolla Shores. So that hasn't been certified yet. It's still with the Coastal Commission for certification to be in effect in coastal areas. And I double checked with our folks in the housing policy section of our department. And yeah, there's a number of items that are still kind of in queue with the Coastal Commission, and that's one of them.
And there's no indication as of yet when they will schedule it?
No information at this time.
All right.
Suzanne, is your hand up? I can't-
Yes,
Okay, please, thank
I
you.
have a comment. I guess it relates to what Marlon said about is when DSD determines not to include us regardless. But my comment is that in looking in trying to find some of these projects that are on our agenda today and looking for the one on Whale Watch Way, 8421, I really had trouble finding it. I guess maybe it's visible, the address is visible from the alley. However, in going on Whale Watch Way, I noticed two projects, very major, very visible projects, new construction. One would be pretty much across the street from where 8421 would be, that is just being finished, and it covers at least, it looks like 3 lots. It's been under construction. It's very visible from La Jolla Shores Drive. There's been cranes there for a long time. And then further and I don't believe that ever came to the advisory board. Does anyone else remember reviewing that project? Would be 8420, 8440, something. I forgot the total address.
Okay, the one that you're discussing that's taken 3 years to build, I don't think we ever saw that. The one that they're almost finished, they're really in the throes of right now, we heard that.
Yes, and that was my comment. We heard that many years ago, and it
Yes.
sort of went away, and now all of a sudden it's being built. It was roundly denied by the community as being very much against the PDOs, being out of character with the neighborhood. And there it is, it just appeared, like 5 years, 6 years later. So I just feel concerned about that. And then looking for the one on Calle del Oro, I drove down that side street of the 2500 block. Of course, that wasn't where it is. But anyway, in looking for that one, there's another very large project. Would be, the address is 2502 Calle del Oro, which is quite similar to the one that we mentioned on Whale Watch Way, very, very, very large. And I don't remember ever reviewing that one. And it is now is under construction. You can see it from the beach, from La Jolla Shores Drive, as wood. You could see the framing. So I'm concerned about, when DSD does not send projects to us. That I think they should.
And I think Phil wants to speak when you're finished.
Okay, I'm finished. That's my comment.
Phil, did you have a comment about this?
Well, no, it's not about this, it's something else.
Okay,
But when you're ready, let me make a comment about something else.
okay.
Jane,
Yes,
so do you remember the project when we only had 4 people, my next door neighbor? And I was
Yes.
conflicted out, had to talk to the ethics
Yes.
commission, everything. Well,
Yes.
they are well underway, so they weren't asked.
Oh,
to
you're kidding me.
Yes, they have taken down the house, they're pouring foundations, and you should see this deck. It is like a
Oh.
second story that is a solid piece. Like everything that we
I
you
can't
know,
believe that. That's-
recommend against
Excuse
is
yourself.
now being built next to my house because we couldn't get a quorum
Right,
to review that project.
because you had to recuse yourself and, yeah, the whole thing.
So, and we only missed that window by a few
Should've
months,
gone
so
before- Well, it should have gone before the city council like the last one did, where we didn't have enough people to vote.
I frankly don't know how they got the go-ahead. I have no idea. Because it's definitely precedent setting in terms of where it is on the street and what they're doing. And even though they're calling it a deck, it's actually, because they're calling it a deck, they're not even, there's no window. It's just like a solid thing that's 2 stories high. So I'm trying to be philosophical about it because I've watched people practically stroke out on these calls, and I don't want to be one of those people, but it's quite alarming. And it's all because we didn't get enough members to have people be able to review it without my participation. So I guess we're not in that situation
And-
anymore, but
and
I
it
just
should have
want
gone-
to comment that when we don't get any input at all, very bad things happen. I'm done.
I'm sorry to hear that one, that's for sure. I mean, all of them are, but well, we've had this situation or a variation of it before. And other than writing a memo to the powers that be in the city, I don't know what else to do. Marlon, do you have any suggestions? I mean, the thing is they're all done. So, and we have asked before numerous times and over the years to send us everything. And so I'm open to suggestions. That's
Madam Chair,
yes.
I have some comments on this. First of all, we approved the construction at 8441 Whale Watch Way in 2020. We were not given the opportunity to comment on the major construction at the top of that street, which is in process at the moment. Now, with regard to Marlon's report, I quite agree with Marlon that DSD has the final say on whether a project is major or minor. But it seems to me that the interpretation that Marlon has brought us is directly contradicted by the clear language of Information Bulletin 621. As I read Information Bulletin 621, the city staff should send anything to us that does not meet all 7 criteria for our opinion. Once it goes back with our opinion to the city staff, they make an independent decision. But just because somebody is under 10% doesn't mean that the city staff shouldn't seek our opinion with regard to height, setback, etc. And I think we should prepare a letter to city staff to that effect.
Well, that's pretty much what I was heading for about a lot of this. In addition to, we can combine it with the other, oh my gosh, I can't believe that house is, anyway. We can combine several subjects in the letter. And so do I have a volunteer to draft the letter?
I'll volunteer to draft the letter.
And if Bert wants any word processing help or anything editing wise, he can throw me in the mix if that's all right, Madam Chairwoman.
Well, throw us all in the mix because it's a draft, and but yes, so we'll all need to see it and approve it. And Kathleen, I believe it was, brought up how it had been mentioned that we were going to have a discussion at some point in the next meeting, or we could, or Bert asked for it. I'd have to go back to the email at the last meeting about Bulletin 621. So I wonder where that falls into this picture.
Well, I think we should notice it on the agenda for next time.
So we're going to write a letter first, or a memo first, and
Well,
then
I think we should have our discussion first and then write the letter.
that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
But I agree with Bert that we should notice it on an agenda for the next meeting, and I'll be happy. You know, I know Marlon has a lot of work to do, and I'll be happy to put it on my calendar to shoot him an email to remind him, you know, to get that agenda within the Brown Act with that on the agenda. If that's helpful, it's up to you, Madam Chairman.
I think Marlon was in that email chain, so I think he and I have briefly discussed this should be handled. Bert, would you agree to lead that discussion?
Sure.
Okay. All right, our next, and that will be in January, as we've noted. So I think we have to vote. Do we need to vote on it as an agenda item, Marlon, or not? I don't know. No, okay. Okay.
No.
That's the Phil, you've been waiting. Do you still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As a new person, I'm a little bit way out in left field because
I don't blame you.
no, I am, because when I did real estate in La Jolla, I was always able to reference La Jolla PDO. So I knew exactly all the rules, but I've never seen a copy of La Jolla Shores PDO, if there is one, because I have no idea what the rules are. And Bert mentioned the 7 criteria. I don't know what that is. This bulletin, one. Can somebody send me this stuff?
No, I think Marlon gave you that bulletin 621 when you were, but I will make sure you get it. But the PDO is online.
The PDO is part of the municipal code. It's chapter 15, 10, Article 15, chapter 10, I believe. It's right in the San Diego Municipal Code, which is online.
Wait, hold, slow down.
So Phil, if you can't find it, just send kneal@att.net an email and I'll send you the link to it on the city.
And
Slow down. What's your email?
Why don't you look at the many emails sent around?
Yeah, okay.
Figure it out.
Sorry.
Okay, and the bulletin, yeah, I was under the impression you had that.
Okay.
But
Solved.
that's kind of our Bible, so to speak. All right. Any other questions regarding the aforementioned subjects? Okay. Now we are going to get into approval of the project review. But before we do that, Marlon can expand on this, but there is no requirement, which, hey, maybe that should be put in something that we're going to discuss. There's no requirement about submitting plans for the proposed project. The only requirement is to fill out that form. We used to, back in the day, that's all we ever got. We saw the presentation at the meeting, we all saw it at the same time, and then we made the decision. Marlon, if you'd like to expand on that, please feel free.
Certainly, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so when applicants request to be on the advisory board, I typically provide them with a applicant project information form so we can get all the information in the details, address, what they're proposing, what they're requesting on that form, so that helps to populate the agenda. And then we also recommend, which is really preferred, is for them to provide any site plans, exhibits, renderings that'll help kind of elucidate their request to the board. And of course, that's background material for the advisory board members. So all the information, however, that is needed needs to be provided at the same time when everyone gets it. So that would take place during the meeting. So it's not required that all this information is provided prior to the meeting, although it's highly recommended because it helps the advisory board do their job. However, when the applicant is presenting the information, all that information that they're sharing with us at the time of the meeting is what would be at a minimum required for everyone to hear the project, provide comment, and then an official recommendation. So I know that in the past, some of the applicants have provided very minimal information and have come to the meeting with all the information. So then that's perfectly fine as well. However, we always do recommend that they provide as much information ahead of time to help inform the project item.
Kathleen, have your hand up.
So I agree with what Marlon's saying, but I would like to add the fact that when we don't have time to review site plans, it's going to lead to a much different decision by the board than it would be if we could actually have a moment or two before the meeting to look at it and understand it. So I agree with what he's saying, that if were in person, we would have them in front of us and we'd be able to stand there and go through it and point at stuff. But I'd like to hear from Marlon, if that prejudices our ability to vote positively, isn't that in itself, though it's not a criteria, doesn't that present, a valid obstacle to giving an approval of a project if you can't understand what the project is?
Well,
You have a very good point there, Kathy.
go ahead, Marlon. I was going to say this could be all solved when we have to meet in person, which will probably be next February, since our governor has lifted the emergency, whatever it's called. And that's my prediction. We have a meeting, the chairs of all the mayor's committees, there was a meeting on Friday, so maybe we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say, Kathleen has a very good point. And I think the applicants know that they kind of run that risk when they don't provide enough information up front to allow the advisory board to do their homework in understanding what the project item is all about. So a lot of those discussions would take place, on the meeting and during the meeting online, and just, viewing that information on your computer screen, as opposed to having it in your hands or having enough time to review prior to.
Yeah, it is a big disadvantage to not see these things. In the meantime, I think we better go ahead and look at what we can look at now, which is action, unless anybody else has any comments on the previous subjects. Let's go to action item A, the Gibby residence, 8311 Paseo Grande, and I believe Mr. Golda. Is that correct? No.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's yes. Okay.
Oh, and Madam Chair, before we have Tim start, I just wanted to let you know on my end, the power went out in my neighborhood. And so the host rights transferred to Phil Wise on the chat.
I wondered why it said and under meeting chat, it said Phil Wise will host the meeting now.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay, that explains a lot. So it's like, wow.
And the newest member is taking over.
So
They hired me.
So Phil, if you don't mind going down to the menu bar where it says participants, and clicking on that, finding Tim Golba's name, and go to the right where you see 3 dots, right mouse click and select co-host for Tim, and then you can go and
Marlon, I believe I already have share rights.
Oh, you do? Perfect.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right,
yes,
great.
The title slide then?
We see it. Thank you.
Let's not hit Phil with too much today.
Marlon, I see who you have the technical competence in. Thank God it wasn't me. Okay.
All right, if you're ready, I will dive right in.
Okay.
Got a full agenda. So we're at 8311 El Paseo Grande. Our clients, the Gibbys, have relocated here from Colorado. This is their ultimate dream house. They intend to live here full time. This is not a spec project or a rental or anything like that. They're anxious to get it remodeled and improved. We are go through the site real quick for you. Most of you know where this is at. El Paseo Grande. There's the site, is the second one in from the corner, right here, and just a couple more shots of it. This shows the sort of footprint. It's a very long on the north side of the project, and then open to the south. This is their backyard, and then the former carport, now garage up in front with driveway and parking for that. Here's a backside shot looking at, you can see Calle Park in the background, showing the house and the footprint and the site arrangement as well. It is currently a 1-story over basement. The project scope includes adding a 2nd story and some minor additions to the existing first floor and basement as well too. The lot itself has a pretty good slope from front low to back high. If you're familiar with this little half block, you know there's a good little stretch where these guys are way above us in the back. So we've got about 7 feet of grade change between the yard and the front curb or the front entryway or something like that. Context wise, I'll go through these fairly quickly. This is the existing house as it sits today. This is what used to be a carport, got converted into a garage, I think in '86, if I remember right, with a prior permit. We have been through historic and cleared of anything with that. The house itself is a sort of boxy, very low ceilings. You can see that the doors are nearly to the roof line, same with the windows and all that, which is one of the problems with the house itself. This is the high side backyard. You can see the 1-story, but then when I go back, it's a 2-story in the front. So we've got this grade change thing going on there that we're trying to mitigate a little bit for the clients as well too. So a couple more pictures. This is an addition that was done, I believe, in '94 by Don Edson, which is a master bedroom in the back that took it all the way to the rear yard. I'll show you on the site plan, but we're not getting any closer with any of that. They have an existing deck in the back, which is off of that existing floor they have, but again in the back, so they don't really have any view off of it or anything like that. Another shot of that rear deck that exists in the backyard, and a better shot of it overall as well too. Part of the problem with this from a designer standpoint is there's probably 11 different elevations in the house in terms of vertical elevations and floor plans. So what we're trying to do is kind of get things at least on a few less levels than what is there now, just to improve the flow and pick up a little better view and give them some more space. So these are some of the neighbors. This is our direct neighbor right now, which is a 2-story with roof deck. Right next door, I believe this is currently a rental as well, which is a good time to have Google drive by and take the image. And just some more directly down the street and across the street. You guys are familiar with most of these, I think. So just kind of setting context for what's in our immediate vicinity, so to speak. And this is the owner behind us, directly behind us. So they're a 2.5-story, almost 30-foot tall structure behind us. And then this is our neighbor just to the north behind us as well too. And then one further to the north behind us. Again, no alley, so that plays into the context, and just shooting some of the cross street photos as well too. So this is a shot sort of showing, looking up at our neighbor behind us in that context from our backyard. So project data, I'll go through quickly on this. Reminder, we went into historical review and we're cleared. This sort of shows the layout. This is an existing depiction of the basement, which is a garage, and there's a bedroom and some laundry rooms and stuff like that out there. This addition that we're doing in the basement level is actually crawl space right now. If I were 4 foot tall, it'd be fine right now, but we're just basically going to dig out the crawl space a little more so that it's a stand-up height room and pick up some extra space out of that. The existing level 1, we're not really adding much to. We're filling in a little notch for a window here, and then adding a little bit in here so we can get a new improved stairwell in there. And that's all that we're adding to level 1. And then the new level 2, which is all new, which is why it has the tone, is pulled way back from the street, the setback as far as we can go. And then basically gives us a chance to right in here, sort of sit over the top of things and pick up a view and pick up a master and a bedroom. Existing numbers we're at 2569, and the project proposes a 1548 addition to the project itself. So that gives us a total of 4,117 and an FAR then at 0.78. And then I'll get into the plans real quick. This is the existing topographic survey, El Paseo Grande in front, driveway going to that former carport garage here. This is the former Don Edson wing back here that was the prior addition. And then of course their yard, which they're out to preserve and want to keep as their sort of play area for kids and grandkids as well too. So we are just on this, it's worth noting we're not getting any closer to the street. We're not getting any closer to this side yard. We're not getting any closer to the south side yard. Not getting any closer to the rear east yard either. So all of our addition is done well within the already built upon footprint of the site. And here is our site plan basically, which again shows you this dark line is the existing outline. This is where that small addition is for the stairway and circulation, filling in a little window here. But again, no encroachment any closer to any setbacks on any of our four sides. This is the basement level itself, which you come in flat off the driveway, which is now the two-car garage, former carport. There is an existing bedroom up here in the front corner. And then we are expanding that crawl space to create a secondary bedroom with a bath, closet. And one of the main impetuses of this project is the addition of an elevator. It's shall we say, Mrs. Gibby is not as able-bodied as she would like to be at this stage through some back and knee issues. So that's one of the prime features of this, is to get an elevator in back there. And this is that circulation element that I talked about upstairs. Mudroom, laundry, and garage storage kind of stuff, just typical stuff for downstairs. Upstairs, this, you can barely see the little tone right here, is the new addition, which is the hallway from the elevator. We're relocating the stairs to get to the upstairs back to here, and this is the current stairway that you come in the front door to get to the mid-level. And then that's it. It's just this little L shape and filling in this little window that's right here right now. But again, no encroachment into expansion or setbacks. On the top floor then, this is basically new, where we've got the master suite and an office / bedroom. Again, the elevator gets up to this floor now, and the new stairways in the back behind there, but basically just the master and an office / could be guest bedroom kind of thing. This starts to show you, it's easier to see on the elevations sections how far back we've tried to pull this from the street, just to mitigate any kind of issues bulk and scale wise. Roof itself is pretty flat. We're of course required to do solar, so we've got the entire section that's set up to be solar capable. And the elevations I've got, but I think they're easier to see in the 3D, so I may go through here, and if anybody has any real questions of it, we can kind of come back to those. I'm going to pause at the section a bit because this does help understand everything that's going on. This is the El Paseo Grande out front. This is where you would come in. The section's not cut through there, it's cut through the entry, but if it was cut through the garage, this you just pull in flat into the garage down here. But by the time you get to the back of the, what we were calling the Edson wing, back there, that's where you picked up 62 inches of grade change. And so that, any way you look at it, either through the offset line of the 30 feet, certainly through Prop D, but also as you measure with the cumulative grade change for the city, we're at about 25 feet 4 inches in overall height is measured. And what you can see is that, you know, we're trying to keep two-story, and then there's only this little center spine. It is actually 3-story, but it's buried in subterranean. So we actually do lose part of our basement through qualification as far as FAR counts, because it is buried more than enough to get us exempted from the FAR on that. But that shows you a good sight sort of what's going on with the project. And then landscape plans, if anybody has any questions on that, basically we're getting rid of, there's some overgrown specimens out front here that kind of block this bedroom completely. But the idea is to get a patio here because that's a walkout bedroom. It's just same elevation as the garage. So they're missing a great opportunity to get out there and have fresh air and this sort of private patio there. So that's the major change, I think, in the front as far as the landscaping goes. Again, the intent is to keep the backyard pretty much as it is. We're putting a provision in for a spa and a barbecue, and that's it. So the rest would stay essentially the same. And that's just the planting plan, which shows it a little easier. I'll get into the renderings so we can get into these. So this is the after shot then. That's the carport, which is in the former garage, I should say, that isn't changing. This is all existing right here. And then the new part, which is the part that is set back significantly from the front as well too, is the part we tried to really pull back to not only allow them to have a deck and view up there, but to keep it from the street, from not being any kind of straight up facade element or anything like that. From the corner, sort of looking north, and then from the north looking back south towards the corner. Again, this is all existing. That's all right there. This is the only new part, is this portion pulled way back here. And then better aerial shot showing the pullback to it. The materials themselves are it's a blend of stucco, some wood siding, stonework. It's sort of a beachy, casual, modern kind of thing with metal fascias and new metal windows, but it's using the stone and the wood siding to gain an accent to it. And then this is sort of looking more from our neighbor over here. Their roof deck, fortunately, is way over on the other side. We do not have a roof deck. Just want to remind everybody of that, just so it's again on the record that there is no roof deck as part of this project. We have a third floor or top floor deck here off of this, but it's strictly private to the master. And then sort of a couple shots of the back as well too. You can kind of see this is that Edson wing we're talking about. So anything new in the back, again, this is as close as we get, which is like 40 feet from the rear yard. So this is new, this is all existing. So we've tried to really pull everything into the center core of the site to have the smallest amount of impact we could with the neighbors themselves as far as the massing and stuff. And this is sort of looked across our neighbor to the south, his yard, where you can kind of see again, this is all pulled in, this is all pulled in, and then that's that center core area where our new second story is. And then just another shot of the front, and pretty much that's the project. So turn it over for questions for you.
Thank you, Tim. That was excellent presentation, of course. And Marlon, do we have any public comments on this?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Then let's open it to questions and comments from the board. Let's see. My chat room. Let's see. His screen is up, so I can't tell whose hands are up or any of that kind of thing. So,
Phil has his hand up.
Phil has his hand up.
okay.
Yeah, again, if this is a silly question, just bear with me because I'm new, but is the garage level to El Paseo Grande, or is it below grade?
It is level, and I can
Okay,
go back
so
and show.
you're calling that a basement. Now, where I'm from, that's the first floor. I don't understand why you call it a basement.
Because you're in California. No, it's and let me go to the section, Phil. That's the easiest place to kind of understand it, because here's the section. So again, this isn't cut through the garage itself. It's cut through the center core of the house where the stairs are, but you can see the driveway is essentially flat. So you'd come in and your car would be right here if I cut the section in a different spot. But by the time you get back here, you can see this where the top of my sort of hand cursor is. That right there is the finished floor of what we're calling first level, but it's only 1.5 feet above grade. So it's a matter of, because the lot is sloped front to back, high in the back, it becomes, that level becomes a basement as it goes deeper into the lot. It's not all, the ground floor footage does count against our FAR until we're back in what we call the Edson addition area. But that's why. It's because the lot slopes and the grade comes up and swallows that lowest level.
So I also thought when I drove past the house, well, it's already 2-story. That was my initial impression. I understand what you're saying and I believe it, but my first impression when I drove by was, well, it's already 2-story. So are they just adding more to the second story? I actually was going to ask that question because it seemed like the language second story addition, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean adding on to the second story as opposed to adding a second story. So
yeah, I just flipped.
You are not alone, Phil.
Here's a quick shot of the east elevation, which is towards the power lines in the back. But you can see by the time we're here, it's basically a 2-story house because the grade has come up. So it is one of those things. It's like, it's a little bit confusing, and the codes don't even agree on it. Between zoning code and building code disagree. What qualifies it as a basement? What qualifies it as a lower level? We could have probably just called it lower level, mid level, and upper level, and been fine too. So,
Kathleen, I believe you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yes. So not having had a chance to really look at these plans, with regard to your landscape plan, do you meet the 30% landscape requirement of the PDO without
Yeah.
any planters or anything of that nature?
Correct, we do. I believe
Right.
we're at 36.
Are there any permeable surfaces that you're including in that?
Yeah, just the front patio.
In other words, the driveway is not a part of your landscaping.
No, no, absolutely not.
Could you give me the percentage on your landscaping? Do you know that?
Yeah, give me just a second to look it up. And Sarah Horton, our project architect, is on board if she has it handier. Otherwise, I'm flipping and scrolling to get you that exact number.
I'm checking right now. Just give me a minute here.
It's a race to see which one of us can find it first.
It is a
31.
very small
It's-
lot for the
It's
size of this house.
31%, Kathleen, I got it.
31%.
And that's
What
not
kind of
counting
I'm
driveway.
sorry, that's good, thank you. What kind of a permeable surface is that deck or patio, whatever it is that's in the front of the house, I think you referred to?
It's like fieldstone, so it's set in a DG, decomposed granite field, so it's just whatever the paver isn't, that area will be permeable then around the stone.
And how many square foot or how much percentage is that of your landscaping, that permeable patio?
I'm gonna say, and this is just, he shows almost 1,600 square feet as being landscaped. And while we don't have a strict dimension on that patio, I'm gonna say that patio is probably 10 by 10.
I'm sorry, I
So-
couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I think the total square footage of landscape is 1,600 square feet. And that patio, just visually, to me, it looks like it's about 10 by 10, 10 by 12. So using that, I would say just extrapolating maybe 8%.
Yeah, no, I won't it's not hard and fast, but you're saying that patio only represents, less than 10% of your permeable area.
Yeah, using logic, 10% would be 160 square feet, and I don't think it's not 16 by 10, I can tell you that for sure. So just using that kind of math, let's say it's 12 by 10, 120, that would be like 8% on the button.
That's very helpful, thank you. Because I do find that a concern in larger structures. The other question that I have is the windows on the sides of the property, stepping away from the whole question of articulation, because the second floor, in my opinion, is not really that well articulated on the sides. Now, I know there's a great deal of argument with regarding to that, but it does impact airflow on adjacent properties. So let's step away from the articulation question and just address the size of the windows facing adjacent properties on the sides. You did a good job on the back. I mean, I don't know what windows currently face in the back, but assuming there's already a pretty good visibility for the back neighbor, in and out, the side then, because of the second story, will become a greater focus on the windows with regard to adjacent privacy. Those are big windows. Just this quick look, me not doing any real drill down, but I do find those large windows somewhat invasive into privacy of adjacent properties. I mean, we do want you to be good neighbors, and that's a big part of it, is that somebody doesn't open a window and all of a sudden they're face to face with an adjacent property. So I think a greater level of sensitivity on that would be very welcome. I don't know that it's a deal stopper for me, but it's pretty high up there. The other concern that I have is that, now, if I've got this right, you said that there's currently a 4-foot crawl space in the areas, that are what are part of the current basement, let's call it that. And you also, if I understood correctly, said you were going to make those more accessible, meaning I assume that you will have to dig.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sure you know that you're in the La Jolla Shores Archaeological Study Area.
Yes.
I did not hear you say that you had a study plan for that or a monitoring plan.
We are slated to be conditioned for monitoring. Because of the amount of disturbance that's already there, they're just going, we do have to have them, we just found out we're mitigated neg deck on the coastal permit. So that's where they're going to condition us for the monitoring itself. So we're
So have
aware
you,
of that, and we're
yeah, I'm
just-
sorry, go ahead.
So it's really, Kathleen, it's this area right here is the area that's going to increase in size where we're digging down. And that's the only portion which again is within the footprint of the existing structure. So, likelihood of disturbance is pretty minimal because this has already been built on and dug through for the crawl space and the footings and foundations that are down there as is. But we will be monitoring as part of construction.
So have you,
Tim,
As a
I'm having
preliminary-
trouble
oh, go ahead.
hearing you. Could you speak more into your mic?
Sure. How's that? Is that any better, Bert?
Much better.
All right.
Thank you.
so as a preliminary, if you're going to be doing a monitoring plan, which I think that's probably going to be really necessary because of where you are.
Yeah.
It would seem rational that you may have already done a record search, a paleontological record search, because regardless of if you have a disturbed area or not, the Natural History Museum is your resource on that. And my question is, have you?
Yes, we have, and it's been submitted to the city and reviewed.
Did it show anything of concern?
No.
Okay, and I assume that's why you're saying that it's a disturbed area that you don't expect to find a problem with.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And that was done by Laguna Mountain Environmental, who does seemingly a great deal of the shores work as well too. So
Because you realize that if you do get a mitigated negative deck, the public will not have any input on those things because it's a negative declaration.
and we're still
Okay.
subject to AB 52 as well too, which it's just been sent out to the tribes right now to see what their input is. So that'll be part of the mitigated neg deck.
Yeah, and I assume your client is quite aware of the fact that, there still are a great many negative surprises that occur as soon as you have a monitoring plan.
They have been aware of that risk back to the day when we started presenting design options to them. And
Okay.
their opinion, quite frankly, was that the risk seems lower to perform the work within the existing footprint rather than stretch this house and fill the site
Okay.
into new sort of, call it, virgin land.
Right. So thank you for all your input. The things you're telling me are very helpful, but I still have problems with this project. And mostly I expect that everyone's aware, and we've discussed it here, the Planning Commission, the City Council, the 2021 Land Development Code update, was passed in January of 2022. This after 7 public meetings here in the community, plus all of, starting in April of 2020, plus all of the sponsored meetings for the city. With that in mind, I'm unable to vote to support the project at 8311 El Paseo Grande with a project FAR of 0.78. This property, if the Coastal Commission had already certified it, would not be able to have a greater than 0.59 FAR. Now, that aside, I'm just looking at it, let's call it a bulk and scale issue, shall we? As much as I dislike that term intensely, I do believe you have a bulk and scale issue. And I'll say to you right now that comparison I just gave you on FAR should direct your attention to it. But I appreciate you've presented, but it is very, very hard without even a site plan, to be well informed for these meetings. So I may seem a little negative, and I apologize for that, but I do appreciate your forthright answers to the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank
in
you. Let's go on
fairness,
to what, board members? Bert, did you have your hand up, or yes?
I didn't have my hand up, and I think Tim wants
I'm
to
sure you have
respond to that.
questions. Yes? No?
well, I was just going to point out, in fairness to the clients did, prior to submitting the project, of course, which they submitted back in December of 21, did run it by senior staff and saying, okay, we're in flux. There are rule changes. We don't know that the California Coastal Commission will adopt these. The rules that are in effect today, as they were in December of 21, still do not limit to a 0.59 FAR. I think it's a little bit unfair for a sanctioned board to judge projects based on what might be the new rules someday, as opposed to the rules that are in effect today and throughout this project's review at the city of San Diego, which we're obviously 11 months into this process already. And the rules haven't changed, but we were vested. We turned it in with the rules to start jumping the gun and reviewing projects based on what may become a pending rule change. We had literally, we don't know if the Coastal Commission will adopt it. More than likely they will, but that's still crystal ball science for reviewing a project, which I think, in fairness to our clients, they're playing by the rules and they shouldn't be sort of denied based on what might become the rules in 6, 8, 10, 12 months. That's all. And I understand Kathleen's point, but as the applicant, I would have to stress that these are the rules today. So,
Okay, we need to move on. Thank you. Phil, you have your hand up?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. In regards to the FAR, do you know what the approximate average FAR is for the adjacent homes?
the 300-foot radius surrounding us is 0.61 as an average.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and you're going to what, 0.7?
7.8.
Yeah. It's,
And there are recent.
yeah, I've seen
projects-
worse.
Well, yeah, that's
Okay.
clearly, I don't need to follow that up.
Other board members, questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble grasping this project, and that may be my problem rather than yours. Although I guess I was a little surprised to see your name on this because you're usually quite good in providing advanced plans and that are very clear. So I've got a couple of questions. First of all, I'm not clear whether you're saying that you are going to retain most of what is there, or whether you are saying that you are basically going to demolish most of what is there and rebuild on the same spot.
No, we will be preserving. We didn't get it down to the stud count, but just from a square footage standpoint, we'll be preserving about 85% of the existing house. Now, normally, of course, if we were in a different neighborhood, Pacific Beach, other areas of La Jolla, we probably wouldn't even need a coastal permit. But because we're in the shores and this 10% rule that you guys already talked about ad nauseum in the beginning of the meeting, that triggers us to go into the CDP. So we are, the whole, what I call the Edson addition, the garage, the bedrooms, the family room, the kitchen above the garage, all that's preserved. We're just basically primarily the new square footage would be the upper level.
So you're going to preserve it and basically dig under it?
Just in this little part that I've got on my screen right now, Bert, this is the only part that gets undermined, this bathroom and closet and elevator area right here.
And the garage.
The garage stays, and there's this
Well, is it the shaded, all the shaded area here? This,
yeah, it's this L-shaped shade right here. You can kind of see there's a
and
line
all
as
the
I'm
way up
running
to
my
here.
mouse. All the way over to there, yes. So that L shape.
Okay. I'm a little unclear how the first story and the second story fit on the garage. Do you have a graphic that can be a little clearer for me?
I mean, I think I can probably toggle between these two floor plans if that'll help you. This is being the ground floor here. You can eyeball where the garage ends. This is an existing bedroom. All this remains. This existing bedroom remains as well too. And when I toggle to the upstairs, this family room doesn't change at all. That's existing construction. It's all staying right there. The great room is existing above the garage right now, but it is currently, this is the kitchen. And what we're doing is moving the kitchen over to this side. So again, this mass, this bulk, this square footage, this wall that I'm running my mouse against right here, it's all existing. So that all stays right where it is. And then in the back, this is all existing. This is what we called the Edson, it was in the photos addition here. This is all an existing mass. It's just being pushed out from the tip of my sort of cursor guy right here down to here. So it's about a 3-foot widening there. And that's the only change on this whole floor, is this little tiny L shape right here. So the mid-level, let's call it, just for sake of clarity, doesn't really involve a whole lot of new footage.
So if I understand correctly, the part of the first floor that is over the garage goes straight up.
No, there's a deck here on this side, which is existing. And then this is a 2-story straight up element that's existing as well too. Let me flip back to a photo or two for you, Bert, that might help. So this is a deck right now. So this mass, as you see it from the street, will not change one bit. This is all the garage and the deck that's staying. This is the 2-story window stack over here, which is bedroom over family room over bedroom, I should say. That's staying exactly as is. So nothing will change with that. That front visible relationship between the first, the bottom and the mid-level won't change at all.
And where does the second story go?
It's well back in, let me go to the plans. That'll be easier to see because I think it's on this section we actually put it. Oops, right there. So this new upper level is well back here. That's, I believe, 27 feet, I think, beyond the front setback. So 47 feet from the property line. So you can see this is roof that's there now that's going to remain, albeit it becomes a deck for the master. But the bulk, the massing of the master bedroom itself is 47-foot setback. And then again, it pulls in about 40 feet in the back to do anything new. So it's just between the cursor here and the cursor there is the only new massing on the upper level.
Well, that picture is very confusing.
Yeah,
So that
Okay,
vertical element behind the shaded lines, sort of like that's part of the addition also?
Yes, but it's beyond where we cut the section. So it's seen in elevation beyond. So the slice is where you see all the dark lines. That's the items in this section we're actually slicing through. And then let me just flip over to the plan real quick, Suzanne, it might help. So we're cutting the section like through right here, but you would see this element beyond. So on that section is cut right through here, right where I'm sort of sliding the mouse. And then what you're seeing beyond is this hallway to the elevator in the section.
So that's also part of the addition.
Correct. So this is that hallway to the elevator beyond. This is the master closet, the master bedroom cut through in this section. But this
and
part
that's a
beyond
straight up wall.
on the north side, it would be.
On the north side?
Yeah. Where
I'm turned around. I thought we were looking at the south side.
no, that would be right here. Or, sorry, wrong house. There. That's right here that you can't see the current house on right here. That would be where the straight up wall is adjacent to the 2.5-story house next door. On our south side, we aren't any closer. We're significantly set back from that side. This is the north side of our house here. And maybe it's easier on let me flip over to quick aerial, see if that helps. The straight up wall is over here on the north side. this yard area that's in there right now, sorry, I just flipped, but this is the north side we're talking about. The only straight up wall is right here. And that's again, adjacent to the big house next door. The yard area remains intact. That yard stays. So the idea of any impact to the southern neighbor really is pretty negligible.
Okay, we need to keep moving here. Any other board members have comments? Andrea or Sue? You have
I don't, I would vote to recommend the project, so I'm just putting that out there. I don't have big questions. I think it's nicely done. I think it's going to, again, I think it's going to be an improvement. There are many homes in the area that have gone through this process already that I feel are similar in bulk and scale. So there you go.
It does
Thank
look
you.
like it. So the second floor is only this back part right here. You can't see it's only,
I'll catch up with this again, don't worry.
I mean, it's really kind of like the third floor.
And that is just this piece. This is the roof of the Edson wing. And this is the lower roof on the second story, that on the living room on the second level, and in the deck itself. So again, this is, it's sometimes easier to see in that section again. That's here. So this 47, it's set back, this upper level is set back 47 feet from the front property line. And I believe it's 30 feet from the rear property line.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
there's something about at grade or below, whichever is lower. So from here, from the very bottom, what you're digging the basement here to to the top of that roof, that's less than?
Yes, because it's not exposed. It's buried within the footprint of the house. The grade on the side yards won't change at all. So it's still up there. So even when I talk about digging out this crawl space, it's still going to be, there's no windows in it because you can't, because it's fully buried within the soil on the side yards.
Existing or proposed grade, whichever is lower.
So it'd be both because they're the same. So our proposed grade doesn't change from the existing. So there is no difference between existing and proposed in this particular case. Let me go to the side elevation. This is the south side, which let's do the north side. This is where you can see the line of where the basement is dug out here, that dash line. And then this is the existing grade, which remains. And let me zoom in a little for you. The line of existing and proposed grade is this dark line. So they don't change. So we're digging out within the footprint of the house. We're not digging out the site with it.
Oh, I don't know, it's not a height problem. Huh?
No, because there's your plumb bob right there is going like this, because remember, we're picking up 6.5 feet from the front to the back. So that's why this plumb bob goes up and follows. That's why even if we want to, and this is a good point, is if we wanted to put the upper level way out here on the front of the house, we couldn't, because we'd be over the height, because the plumb bob off the driveway and all that would have gotten us. So we had to push this upper level addition back far enough and let the grade climb on the site. So off of existing, we had the room to build it.
Can I ask, just to try to convince me to vote differently?
I'm all for it.
Tim.
Go for it.
How would you convince me that and this is your number, that an average FAR of the area is 0.61 and somehow a 0.78 house is in keeping with the bulk and scale of an average of 0.61?
Well, as you know, the keyword is average. You know, as you go back to what we were just looking at a second ago, this particular microcosm, I mean, this area that we're in right now, redone, there's a permit to redo it. It's already big. I mean, so, you know, the average includes some of the smaller original house, 300 feet pulls us out pretty far. So those are the ones that are, in this case, I think skewing it. If we were in one of some Ocean Beach type cottage district that we only had 1-story homes, I wouldn't be here presenting that because I would agree with you. But here in this context, I'm afraid that there's just so much that's going on. And these are, I mean, this is a 9 over here. There's an Island Architect 1.0 FAR right down the street. So it's not that these homes are small, and there's an existing fabric of it. So I don't think that our 0.78 is going to stand out or be foreign, especially when you consider the care taken to only have that top floor in the truly center mass of the house, so that we're not getting in their face, so to speak. We're nowhere near theirs, and this is already much taller than us to begin with. So we're just catching up with the Joneses to the north. So I mean, I can't, with that offset of where that new floor is, I just can't believe in my heart that we're going to stand out or be foreign to the neighborhood.
Okay, we need to move along. We've got 2 other projects that I'm sure will evoke a lot of discussion. I'm making a motion to recommend approval of this project. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
No, I guess bulk and scale just doesn't fly with, even if we deny it, it'll be approved.
I mean, this whole neighborhood is,
Yeah.
it's exactly the way Andrea said and Mr. Golba said. It's there's huge projects, and that is the way it's going, and it'll be approved. Right. So let's vote. How many people are in favor of the motion to recommend approval?
Here,
Bill? Okay, sorry. Phil, we have Phil.
That help? There you go. I gave you your screen back so you can see hands.
Yeah, thank you. All right, raise your hand if you approve. Sue?
Recommend.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, recommend. Sue, Andrea, Phil, me.
Those 4-2.
So it's 4-2. Back in the old, we need 4.
I would actually abstain on this vote. I'm simply not able to process enough about this project to vote at this point. If I were asked my preference, I would put it off until the next meeting, but obviously there's a majority in favor. And you can record me as an abstention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you, Tim. And let's go on. Marlon, I did not think of this before, but traditionally informational project goes at the end of the meeting. We've already approved the agenda, however, so.
Yeah, that's correct. We want to take care of the action items first and then the information items.
Okay, I apologize. So action item B is now action item C. And so we will go to what is now action item B, and that's 2521 Calle del Oro. Chris Fletcher, I believe, is presenting, or Jules Wilson. I'm not sure who's presenting.
Oh, sorry. Hi, this is Jules, and I will be presenting. Thank you.
Great. I guess Phil's got to figure out how to share the screen, or somebody does.
I can share. If I can share my screen, I'm already here.
Okay. And again, this is 2521 Calle del Oro.
Yes. Sorry, let's see here. I believe. Okay. Here we go. Bear with me just 1 second. Okay. Let's see, did the screen just go black? I think it's just generating because of the size of the file. So we're talking about the residence at 2521 Calle de Oro. This is the primary residence for our client. And the basic scope of the project is substantially from a visibility point of view, hardscape, landscape, 2 new pools, and a pool house that is substantially subterranean. Let me see here. I apologize. I'm not sure. We don't mind looking at it in this format. I don't want to waste our time. Okay, so first and foremost, we want to show you how we believe this building fits into the community. So looking at kind of an overhead view, you can see the project, the rendering, and how it kind of looks relative to the other houses around it. Certainly we have some precedent houses that are, we believe, a bit more ambitious than we are. Next, what I'd like to talk about is our attempt to do due diligence with the neighbors. This is a client that has good relations with the neighbors, very much care about the neighbors, and is doing their best to respect their view, to the extent that they put up story poles for the neighbors to review the scope of work. We provided all sorts of renderings for the neighbors to review. And when I say neighbors, I'm talking about the ones on each side of the house. And after the review and conversation, we were able to get sign off by both neighbors that they have no issue with our proposed project. Next, I'd like to talk about the changes. We are proposing to go from a 49% lot coverage to a 53% coverage. You can see the existing building second floor, no change. The level 1 ground floor, first floor, if we want to call it. We are adding 30 square feet, which is an elevator, but we are proposing to remodel in hardscape 3583 square feet. We are maintaining that 31% landscaping for the site. So we have 6,400 square feet of landscaping on a 20,100 square foot lot. And then in the lower level, you will see that our new structure is substantially subterranean. This area and the that's hatched is the area that is subterranean, and the lower level outdoor is where the new pool is. So our FAR, we are going from 0.49 to 0.51. Our allowable is 0.6. So we believe we are within our FAR. Next, I wanted to show you some precedent projects. We have 3 precedent projects that we believe are larger than our proposal, both in the size of the retaining walls, but also in their massing and scale, or bulk and scale. So below here, we have our house stated as number 1. Then we have 8 houses down over here, our precedent 1. Sorry, our box got a little bit shifted. But if I zoom in here, you can see a large project, large retaining walls, substantial use of the site beyond what we are proposing. Our precedent number 2 is 6 houses down from our site. And you also see here very large retaining walls and substantial use of the site beyond what we are proposing. Over here, we have our precedent 3 on Prestwick, and that is 9 houses down from our site. And they, again, have a lot more going on than we are proposing. So giving us back to that overhead view, you can see how we look to our neighbors. There's another interesting thing about this site that's a little bit hard to tell in this 2D version, but when you're driving around La Jolla Shores, it's hard to even find this house from a street point of view. So if you're in your car driving around and look up, it's a very difficult house to find. You really need to be over on Mount Soledad. There's a view that you can see it from there. A little bit of view depending on where you're seeing from La Jolla Shores. So this is a very hidden house in terms of even seeing the hardscape that we are proposing. But let's get into some of the detail. That's sort of the high level version. Let's look at our section. Let's look at our heights. So we have our low datum point here, which we have used the coastal height limitation overlay zone building 5-4 to determine the low datum point at the low side of the structure. And that does take us to our max 40. So we are pressing against our max, but we have studied the section ad nauseum, to be honest, with the client to really kind of compress this and get everything to fit and make sense. So you can see here that 30-foot allowable line going with our slope. You will also see our area that is exempt from FAR. So you can also see with the grade line how we are substantially in the hillside here. You will also note that we are not impacting the view of any of our side neighbors. No vantage point here. Do we now get a sort of peep show scenario? As I know that was kind of a question that was brought up earlier. Here's another informational look where you can see the elevations of the existing house intact. You can see the attempt that we have made to respect views, respect nature, follow the slope of the land, and be pretty delicate and polite about it. Although our focus in this firm is design, we have a huge passion towards landscape design and integrated hardscapes and organic architecture. So we've really tried to be thoughtful about how we have this lay in the land. You can see here on our site plan, we shaded in green our landscape areas, again, reaching that 31% point. This is a good view that shows the scope. You can see a hardscape area out here. These are very friendly neighbors. They love to entertain, very kind people. We have a little barbecue pavilion. We have an upper pool. You come down these steps here into a lower pool, and below that is the pool house. Our back setback is at 20 feet. This is 10 foot right here. Our retaining wall is in that 30 to 32 foot range. So no issue that we see on setback. We have minded our 8-foot setbacks. The existing house lives within the 8-foot setbacks. We do have landscape and retainage within our side setbacks, including these steps down. Let's see here. You can now see how the house fits in the larger context of the neighborhood. You can see the mass and scale of adjacent homes. I'm happy to pause and or circle back at any time.
Yeah,
Moving.
sorry.
Sure. Uh-huh.
Oh.
We have, oh, go ahead. So,
Oh, I was just gonna see that slide that you were showing, the sort of in the neighborhood thing.
oh, sure. This one?
I couldn't get my, okay. Just wanted to see that again.
So yes, you can see that from above, you know, no real, no changes to the view, certainly.
Okay.
And as we mentioned, we have written approval from these neighbors on cross views.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, then I'm gonna just go to more detailed plans. You can see inside the pool house, we have bowling alley, guest room, a little bar, a lounge area. It opens out to a spa and infinity pool. We have an outdoor kitchen. We have an outdoor lounge area. This is open on 4 sides. On the upper level, we have these steps coming in again to an outdoor lounge, pool lounge, and outdoor dining. This is a very traditional family. They, the lower area is kind of where the men and the boys hang out. It's kind of their clubhouse, and the ladies sort of hang out up here more elegantly. If you're asking why are we doing 2 pools. So anyway, here we have our elevation that shows the subterranean pool house, the landscapes and layering of retaining wall. And then we have our renderings that we've attempted to put in the context of the neighborhood. So we do come down the slope a little bit more than our side neighbors, but we don't feel that we've gone down the slope more than some of the other neighbors in the adjacent area. You can see how it looks from below. We also plan to kind of landscape some of these side areas so that, you know, we're kind of feel a sense of enclosure, a sense of being engulfed by landscape. From a materiality point of view, we're just going off the cues of the original architecture. We have a wood, some aluminum and steel, glass, concrete. We think the story here is a lot, you know, water and greenery. And that's all we have for you today. So shoot away.
Okay, well, I forgot to mention in the beginning that this is, where is it? You're looking for whether or not this is proposed to be minor in scope.
Yes,
But-
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
I forgot it too. I'm supposed to read it. I'm just going to start out by saying whatever we end up with anything, this is the most fascinating project. I've been on this board
Oh,
for a million years, and I'm a swimmer, so I'm prejudiced. So, but it's absolutely fascinating proposal. I will say that. And now we'll go on to other.
okay.
Which we'll start with Phil. Your hand is
Well,
up.
fascinating's better than super boring and ugly, hopefully.
Oh, no, you're not super. No, it's fascinating. Okay. Phil.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to
Okay.
mention that we didn't receive any written or
Oh, thank you.
public comment.
Well, yeah, and you got the neighbors' approval. That's a huge step. Okay, Phil.
You mentioned that the parcel was 20,000 square feet and the FAR was 0.49. But what is the FAR based on the buildable square footage of the parcel? Because
It's 53%, I believe.
No, the buildable portion of the parcel, part of the parcel that's flat that you can build on, because you can't build on the slope that goes down way down. You know, what is the pad size?
The pad size overall, let's see, Chris, I don't know if you can jump in and help me that. I've
The
got
pad
Chris from my
size,
team.
the finished floor of the basement is what you're asking?
Well, you know,
I think you're asking the overall.
no, I'm asking for the buildable pad size of the lot. It's not 20,000 feet. It's you've got a.
The buildable FAR on the lot is 0.6.
No, you're not understanding my question. The parcel is 20,000 feet, but a portion of the parcel goes sloping down the hill. You have a pad. When they padded, when the Harry Summers or whoever padded Calle de Oro, they built pads out that you can build homes on. The flat portion of the pad, it's not 20,000 feet. It's like 10,000, 12,000 or something. Do you know what that is that the actual house sits on?
Oh, okay, the existing house footprint
Yeah.
would be under 10,000. So it's 9,000 something.
It's 4621 plus 2635, but the allowable, I believe, is 50% of the lot.
No, I know that, but
I'm sorry.
This is that big boxy house on Calle de Oro, right?
Correct. Well,
It just looks
sure.
like a big box
Yeah.
there. And I walked by it this morning, but I just, to me, the lot's being pretty well utilized. That's my only concern about this. And I think it might be better if, well, it's just a prejudice, my personal feeling. So, okay, that's my only question.
Okay.
Kathleen.
Thank you. No, I want to compliment you. Having gotten letters signed from the adjacent neighbors and doing storyboard is really great. Thank you. The story polls rather, but I do have a couple concerns, and
Sure.
they kind of focus on the fact that we couldn't tell from your original description whether you were replacing the existing pool or not. So it now appears that yes, you are digging a new pool, but even more important, it sounds like you are digging to put the pool house, which is a pretty large structure.
Correct.
Okay.
The pool is above, so I don't know if we'd call it digging, but certainly for the pool house we are, and we would be removing the existing pool.
Right. So we're disturbing soil. So in this case, you know that you're in a moderate paleontological area. So the same question goes, anytime you dig in the shores, have you done a record search for paleontological records with, like, for instance, the Natural Science Museum?
No, but it sounds like that's what we need to do next.
Well, you're in a moderate area, so it's not as bad as the previous project that we heard, where they are in a study area, which ups the ante totally. But when you add to the fact that you're disturbing a good deal of soil, And then the fact that from a hydrology point of view, this is an area of special biological significance. So that means you have two aspects that you kind of really need to address.
Okay.
That would say to me, I don't know if you're digging that, I'm not sure that makes it a minor. I mean, I think it's brilliant you're talking to the neighbors. I think there's a lot of positive aspects to your development. Certainly it's beautiful, but you are digging, and you're digging substantially enough that it concerns me that you need to address those things. And generally speaking, a minor project isn't given nearly the scrutiny on those issues as it would be if you were a major. So unless you can convince me, like if you had already done the record search and you said, no, this is already disturbed, there's not a big risk, I would then be more comfortable with a minor. I'm not sure I'd be totally comfortable, but it would be a better one. But right now I'm kind of holding back on this one, and I may have to vote towards a major, but I do appreciate what you've done. I know exactly what Phil is talking about, and I do think this is a large development. Even if you take the citywide 0.6, if you looked at the code changes that the city council has approved that were not yet implemented because of the coastal commission, you would be at an even lower limited FAR. So I don't have a problem with that, truthfully. And that's because you've talked to the neighbors, and they're not concerned. I think that kind of mitigates it for me, but I still have huge concerns about the digging. So
Sure.
But I appreciate how well informed you were. I just wish we could have seen the information earlier, so I could have known, that you were putting in a new pool and there was this much digging going on. But thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Sue.
Kathleen, I might be able to answer your question a little bit. We haven't done the geological study yet, which is something we will do in the future, but we have gotten a soils report. So the soils report determined that we have about 30 foot of fill on this slope. So it's highly unlikely that we'll be finding anything within 30 feet of soil of that existing line.
Actually, I disagree with that assessment. I think it's great that you have that data, but I will tell you that the fact that it's moderate probably puts you at a lower risk than anything else. You'll almost always stumble on a piece of pottery somewhere, but it's not necessarily going to be discernible or even significant in a moderate area. But again, you are disturbing enough soil in an area where it is, especially the hydrology, this is a significant biological area. It's just the level of scrutiny you'll be subject to as a minor is a lot less. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Sue, you're next.
So, what is this on the side here of this particular sheet? It shows, it looks like you're referring to it. I can't read it. It's too small.
Okay.
Information bulletin. What is that about?
Yes, this is the regarding coastal height limitation overlay zone. We're basically proving to you how we're measuring the house and where our low datum point is derived from. And it is indeed derived from the low point in the structure. Bear with me as I move things around. Right here, and that's at our elevation here. So we are measuring from this point on up.
So there's some question here. We're not approving this project. All we're saying is it's a minor. So I don't know how you.
We will be making a recommendation, and if we want to, we can recommend it, or we can say.
So I don't see how this is a minor, because for several reasons, because it seemed to me your overall height limit would be down to where, it shows is these trees and this little, the pool. The two pools, are they separated by 6 feet?
Right, but the pool is exempt according to the overlay from being part of that measure. It's a separate structure. It's not attached, and therefore is not part of the allowable height. I mean, we've attempted to follow the rules as written.
Well, I think the city, this needs to be reviewed very carefully by, has this been, well, no, it hasn't because it's minor.
We came to you first.
This overall height limit question is, it's a difficult technical question, and I'm concerned here that I'm just not sure how that's going to be interpreted. So I think that the city needs to review, somebody needs to review that very carefully before, if it goes through as a ministerial project, that's not going to happen. And it just seems, you know, because cascading down the hill is very much out of character, even though you can pick out examples where this has happened. It's certainly a character of the neighborhood PDO issue. And I just can't see how this could be a minor. It's just massive amount of construction and digging and so I think that.
Okay, we have other board members with their hands raised. I'm going to make a comment. I still think it's absolutely fascinating project, but I not support it as a minor project for all the reasons that have been explained. So Bert or Phil, Phil, you were next, I believe, if you'd like to make a motion or.
Wait, I've got a question. Got a question. The gentleman said it was Phil. It was, the parcel was Phil, not cut. So since it's Phil, when you do this, are you gonna have to put caissons in?
We haven't gone through
Yeah.
structural engineering, but I would think that we would have to put caissons in, yes.
It's assumed,
Okay,
yeah.
it's definitely a major, because it's not minor at all. I'm sorry.
Hey, Bert, you have a comment
Yeah,
or a motion?
you've talked to the neighbors on either side of you, but have you talked to the neighbors behind? I don't know whether that's Calle del Cielo or Calle Frescata, but it seems to me that those are the people who would have a vision of this. The other thing that I would like to know is what the dimensions of the pools are and what the dimension of the pool house might be. I suspect that if you put all that together, it's much more than 10% of the existing buildings on the site, even though the existing buildings are quite large.
Okay, so a couple questions there. We have not talked to the neighbor above. It's not their primary residence, and we've had some challenges getting a hold of them. We don't believe their vantage is significantly impacted by the house because they're up so high here. And then in terms of the overall square footage, you know, again, our calculation is looking at this number here. Sorry, bear with me. I don't know why this just. So we're looking at the 4621 with the 2635 on a 20,000 square foot lot. I don't know. So.
Okay, it is 10 minutes till 12. We are scheduled to adjourn at 12 and we have another item, informational only, but it's very major. So I'm looking for a motion.
I would move that we recommend that this not be a minor project.
Do I have a second?
Or can we make it that we recommend it as a major project?
Nope.
Yeah.
That we not recommend it as a minor project.
Well, all right.
You can't, the motion has to be like Bert said, only I would say, yeah, that's good enough. Okay.
Okay,
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand.
So I'm sorry, you're recommending it as a major project?
No,
No.
I don't understand. Sorry.
Recommending it, Denying approval as a minor project is what we are doing.
Okay. Can I get,
Gotta be major.
okay, then in the spirit of, if this is major, could you, I know we're short on time, but respectfully, the other project got a significant amount more time than we did. Could we at least get your comments as if it's a major project so that we can consider that in our next move and attempt to be efficient with all of our time and address them prior to another meeting?
Well, we've made several comments about why it is not a minor project.
Right, but if we were to, can I get feedback as if it were a major project
Would we approve
and
it?
efforts to move this project along more efficiently through all of us? Because otherwise I'm just coming back like, okay, now we're major. So what are the comments? I mean, we could just do this right now. Respectfully, I mean, it's just, I know that December you're off and,
Right, no,
you know, I've got to respond to my client and, you know, we've all put in a lot of time and energy to be here today.
So let's get some comments about
I
if
did not make a
it were to
comment
come
prior
back
to
as a
this,
major project.
But it is a major project. I think there are going to be significant.
Wait a minute, I can't hear.
Sorry, it's hard to hear.
Andrea, we can't hear you.
Not muted.
Can maybe speak closer to the mic. I don't know. It sounds like you're in
You're in-
distance.
Is that any better?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm just hitting buttons here. This project is a major project. There's no question. And I can't really tell you right now how I would feel about it if I saw it as a major, because I think it is really starting to affect the general area. And we have heard comments in the past that some of this work, and you're talking not even ants being able to say whether you're going to do caissons or maybe, there's so much more work that has to be done before this could come back to us as a major. And also, I do think people have noticed in some of these areas where people start doing this type of work that it affects adjacent property. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to hide it. It's like this has, I'm going to use the word seismic implications sometimes in terms of the work that you're doing. And maybe I'm using that figuratively. I don't know, but this is a big project. And you know,
Sure.
our feedback is you need to look at it that way.
Respectfully, seismic issues will be resolved via engineering, as they always are in California. And certainly we would have to comply. We've attempted via design to be respectful to our neighbors, to view, to sense of landscape, to sense of nature, etc.
I think unless
Jane, this is Kathleen. Could I just try to summarize? And I'd like
Yeah.
I'd like the applicant to understand that some of these areas are not areas that we specifically review. They are rather areas that get reviewed because it's a major project. So what I'm telling you isn't necessarily what you have to give to us as much as it is why the project doesn't fit the parameters of a minor. So,
Okay.
so the fact that we have questions about the caissons, the amount of cut, you know, that the actual soil that's going to
Cut
be
and
removed,
fill.
the size of the buried structures, those are influenced by the fact that it's an area of special biological significance and paleontological study area, sensitivity area. And once you move into a major, the city will start to review in more detail all of these questions that we're asking you. So I think some of what we're telling you is that we just think what you've presented to us shows a larger impact to the lot itself. And then also, I think there's the question that will come up again. The neighbor that's downslope from you may be a good visual distance, but from a hydrology point of view, could be negatively impacted by what you're doing. So that means a neighbor, contact with a neighbor downslope particularly may become significant. The other question that came up, and it's associated with what Phil was saying, is that there is concern among the board members that possibly what you're doing may be a greater than 10%. We don't have the data and we don't have the time yet to have known whether that's true. But the fact that we have that concern throws it immediately to DSD's ballpark to make that determination. So all we're saying is, yes, this one, tell your client that there's a little bit too much of the lot disturbed and we need the city to look at it as a major, because there are issues that we cannot arbitrate.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was excellent. And the whole point is, once we have recommended, and hopefully the city will follow, that it's not a minor project, it's going to have a whole lot more study with a whole lot of everything. You'll be, then you will be able to come back to us and with whatever they've told you to do and all that. And so we
But Miss Wilson, please tell the client how much we appreciate what they did do. You know, that they did get letters, signed letters from adjacent property owners is just wonderful. Tell them thank you.
we've said,
Okay.
yeah, that's a biggie for us, but you know, it's, you still can't approve it as a minor. So thank you.
Okay.
And,
All right.
Thank
you.
It's still a fascinating project, even if
We are trying our best to do the right thing.
well,
we truly are.
That will be, you do have a lot more work to do, and then hopefully it'll end up being done in a good project. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, it's now 11:57. Okay, I'm going to emphasize that this 8421 is informational only. I don't know how much more time our board members have. This is supposed to end at noon, and I don't know about your time, Marilyn. And the Whale Watch Way one is quite an extensive project. So I would ask for the presentation and not try to avoid all repetition in our questions so that we can give them some input, and otherwise we'll have to continue it, but we're taking it as information item, so we don't have to continue it. So they'll have something to come back to us with that we've given them a little idea about. So Aaron Borgia.
Yes, how are you doing? Thank you so much. I appreciate you squeezing me in here as we reach the end of our 2-hour meeting. I just wanted to jump right in, because I know everyone has a lot of things to do today. So here's the property, 8421. First, I apologize for that typo on the application. Honest mistake there, and it's unfortunate that happened, but here we are. So here's the property. It's basically 3 wings with a pool in the center. As I zoom out, you can kind of see the context of the adjacent buildings. And right now the building is relatively small compared to almost all the buildings surrounding it currently. To jump into the presentation. So this is the view from the alley. We are essentially trying to keep a lot of the house bones where, we're keeping a lot of the structure, the floor plan, and essentially filling in areas of the house where that pool was at. We're going to fill that in and really try to limit the change from the exterior, especially on the lower side of Whale Watch. So here's the view from the alley. Basically, we are trying to create as much articulation as possible. We are trying to step back from the right of way so that the bulk and scale of the building seems as minimal as possible. This is the view straight on. This is actually the existing garage over here. We're just trimming it down and we can go over that in more detail. There's a central courtyard that's the entry that leads to the front door. And then there's another garage here, this is the major addition on this right of way view that should be considered in your input. Here's that 2-level. And again, this is about an 8-foot ceiling down here. And really the reason why it is so condensed is the overall height. We wanted to respect that and make sure that we're well under that for just for the bulk and scale of the building. We do have a second level up above the garage. You can kind of see it here. It does step back. And this is a family room. We can get into the plans in a second. The FAR is currently at 0.21, and we are going to a 0.47. So we are adding a significant amount, but the house is relatively small for the lot size. The existing house is around 3,800. And then at the end of the day, the house assessed size will be at 8,195. With some, also the garages will also be included. That's about 1,470 square feet, and then some phantom floor as well, because of some double high space. Here's the existing house. You guys hopefully have driven past it. The alley side is not very appealing in my opinion. It's very bare. There's no windows. So you can see kind of there's a 3-car garage, and really just not very inviting in our opinion. Here's the view down from Whale Watch, actually on the street. So you can see how far the house is set back. We are maintaining this level of setback of the house. However, we are building out a deck and a pool that we'll go through here in a bit. And let's see, here's kind of getting closer to the house. This is actually on the property. And then here's the view kind of from the side. It's dated. It's not older than 45 years. So we do not need to go through historic yet. So we are kind of just getting in before that time frame lapses. So here's the entry level. The diagonal hatch is the existing house, and this is existing garage. And then we're filling in basically the courtyard. And we are doing a small addition to the side here. And then this is the new garage that we're adding along the alley side. This is the lower level basement. You can see the earth that is around it. And we are actually extending it about 6 feet. So very minimal impact to the basement there. So very limited amount of digging that will need to be completed on this project. Here's the 3rd level. This diagonal hatch is the existing 3rd level, and well, it's 3rd level technically, but 2 levels above the basement. So from the entry grade on the alley, this is the 2nd level, and this is where the significant amount of work is being completed. You can see where we're filling in this area, a family room, and then a master suite, and some double high spaces through the middle of the house. In regards to sizes of the property, I feel like this is a very good tool to compare our house to the rest of the houses around, and it has to do with the assessed size. So the county assessor, this is all public information, and so this is the assessed size, right, excluding the garages. And so you can see we are at around 8,195. There's several houses in the 9,000s and 10,000s, and so when you consider that in an FAR standpoint, we are just a bit above average, but you can see that 0.41, there's a 0.47. We're exactly aligned with this one, which is about the same size house anyways. And then there's several that are pretty, I guess larger houses altogether. There's a significant setback already off Whale Watch. It's 110 feet. We're actually maintaining that, but we are building out a deck, like I said, in a covered patio that will reduce that slightly. So here is the entry level off the alley. So alley is on the right side, Whale Watch is on the left. It's so far down, we actually don't even have it included, but we'll go over the site plan in a minute. So here's the tandem garage. This is the center courtyard that creates that undulation or articulation in the front facade. This is the existing 2-car garage. We wanted to emphasize the setbacks that we're maintaining. So here's a 13-foot setback. We're maintaining that. The gray is an existing wall. We are encroaching to an 8-foot setback on this side, which again is a good amount compared to our neighbor that is to the north, who actually is only maintaining a 4-foot setback along that in almost their entire side there. So we're just giving a little bit more than what they were giving us. Here we're maintaining a 10-foot setback. We do encroach to about a 5-foot setback, but just for one level in this area. It's really just to allow for this bathroom to get a peak view of the ocean. We do, again, provide some articulation in this facade here. The neighbor actually has a garage here that's at 5-foot setback, so we kind of mimic that, but then we increase to about an 8-foot setback, and then the addition here is maintaining about 10-foot 6 setback above the basement there. This exterior wall is actually the same as what is there currently. We're just opening up that facade. This deck is the existing deck that is there currently, and then we're adding a deck here, which is what I was mentioning, how we're kind of getting a little bit closer to the street. But ultimately what you'll see in the sections is that each of the sections, the building steps in. Also, you'll see that the building is widest and tallest in the center of the property versus towards the ends to, again, help reduce the bulk and scale. Here is the second level. So you're going up the stairs, you got a bank of rooms and a family room. This is the alley side where we have a planter, and then the building is offset. So we're gonna have a nice cushion there between the right of way and the building itself. Again, we're providing some articulation here. We've got an 8-foot setback on this second level, and then it increases to 13 feet on this side, maintaining that existing setback that's there currently. On the other side, we've got a 10-foot setback, and then articulates to about a 6-foot. So you can see just how there's a little bit of a difference in elevation there versus just one flat wall, which is something we wanted to avoid in the design. Here's the lower level. Again, most of it is the same. There is about a 7 or 8 feet addition here. This is for the stair and fireplace. You can see the patio cover that we're adding, and then the pool that is out front there, which is, again, kind of encroaching into that front yard. But previously we had a 110-foot setback from that street, and we're basically reducing it to about, I want to say, 86 feet to the pool. So actually, it looks like the house is actually at 129 to the wall of the house, and then basically in between. So we're still maintaining a great distance from the setback on the front side. This is the overview. This thicker diagonal hatch is actually at the high 1 foot below the maximum overall height, and then we drop down about 5 feet, which is the majority of the house that is about 5 feet below the overall maximum height that we're allowed to build on the property. I wanted to run through some sections that compare the existing house with the new house. So the blue line is the existing house, and we are increasing the height. So we're going 6 feet up at the highest, or at basically on towards the whale watch side, and then towards the alley side, which I had mentioned seems low, right? From when you're standing on the alley, we actually are increasing that height by about 9'3", and then maintaining a 1 foot distance from the overall height. And then this is around a 5 foot change there. Here's the view from the alley side. You can see how it's, it is compressed on this side. So helps just keep the scale of the alley side limited. Here's the other side. You can see how the building steps down with the property. This is the one that's a little bit deceiving because it does show the basement level. Then it's the entry level, the second level, and then there's that step up that I was mentioning. Here's the step up there, and then the step down. Section cut. How you can see where the building steps back from the alleyway. Also, the building steps back from whale watch as well. You can see this is the main facade that's existing, and then we're stepping back. The blue line represents the existing house and how much we're increasing there, 6'2". We've got our overall height and plumb line height limits that are also well within the maximum. There's another section through the existing garage, and then that 2 level at the alley side. You can see the just the volumes and how we're trying to separate the building so it's not just one mass. Here's the view through the entry level. So this is the steps down. The property currently, you have to actually go down quite a few steps to get to the entry level. I'll show you on the site plan where there's actually a ramp on the other side. We're integrating an elevator as well. So really it's trying to be accessible as possible for anybody who's or for the current tenants, or not tenants, sorry, the current owners that are going to be living there. Here's the view through the basement. So we've got the imaginary plane. It's classified as a basement, therefore a majority of this is exempt from FAR. That square footage is included in the assessed value that I've been telling you about, but it's not included in the FAR calculation because it is exempt per the municipal code. You can see the existing house, the blue line here, and then you can see where we're adding on to that area. Here's the site sections. So it's worth mentioning that we spoke to and met with the neighbors at 8431 Whale Watch. That is to the north. The house size will actually be identical to theirs, with theirs being a little bit higher on their on the back end of their house. And then we also spoke with 8411 Whale Watch. Additionally, we spoke with 8442 Prestwick. So all three neighbors were in support of our project, which was a great thing for the owners to do, and basically to explain the project to them, and they can feel confident that this is not going to impact their view. So here's the site section through the alley. You can see how the building steps down and where the basement is currently living here, and then the pool that's down on the far end. Here is the view from, this is actually on the property a little bit, but you can kind of see how the building steps back a little bit. Basically, if 2 levels in a basement below, you can see the pool down here, the smaller retaining walls. The slope actually lends really well for a pool. It's about a 7-foot drop from where the pool, from where this tree is, I would say, down to where the pool ends. So it just kind of works with the site. So here's the view from just the backyard deck. You can see how it steps back. We're planning to integrate quite a bit of landscape into the building itself, just to help break up the mass a little bit. Here's another view from closer up into on the pool deck level. And then one more view from the entry courtyard that basically helps separate and articulate the mass in those on the front facade there. So that was a lot of information, and so I thank you for bearing through that. And again, I apologize for that address being incorrect. I hope I had covered everything on. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. We are at 60. Actually, while we were listening to those other presentations, the landscape, we're actually at 61%, so we're double what is required for landscape on the property, and that's not including any planters. That's just including what is left over on the site. And lot coverage, we do go to about 25% from 14, which again we feel is very reasonable. And then again, that's the FAR. So yeah, so I think the goal of this is, obviously, since it's informational, our clients are going to be spending a lot of money on civil engineering, geotechnical studies, landscape architecture. And so we just want to make sure that before we, tell those consultants to go, that we feel comfortable that, when we do come back again, when this does come back as a site development permit, coastal development permit, that you will likely be able to support what we are proposing in the neighborhood, and that this building does indeed fit into the context and scale of the La Jolla Shores PDO.
Question. So
Sure.
This was an action item. It said you were seeking a recommendation of the proposed project as minor in scope.
So I feel like that was, I mean, it's kind of the same situation as the previous presentation, and so it's essentially a presentation to say, okay, well, we know it's going to be site development permit, but we haven't submitted for a site development permit because there's a lot of information that you have to compile before you do that. And so getting a good idea of what your comments are going to be regarding this project is going to help us define their scope.
Okay, so the way I see it, then our input is going to be focused on not necessarily every detail, but just more general, because if you're thrown into a major, then which you're indicating.
We're anticipating being a major already.
Then we don't need to go through why this is, you know.
Yeah, we do not need to do that because we know that this will be both a coastal permit and a site development permit.
Good, I'm glad we have that going into this. Andrea.
Jane, I don't understand the previous project and this project, why we have gone through this when these are so clearly not minor projects. This could have been brought to us as an information item with the acknowledgement that it was not going to be a minor project, and I would have taken it more seriously, because I sat here the whole time saying I'm only being asked to recommend it as a minor, and that's not going to happen. So I don't understand why these two things ended up on here in this way. It's kind of, and I'm not going to say it's a waste of my time. I have paid attention. If they come back, I will have that much more information to go on. But I don't know who's advising these people to come and ask for this kind of recommendation. It just doesn't make sense to me. So obviously I'm not voting to recommend it as a minor project.
Well, but we're not, that's what I'm saying. We're not voting anyway. We've already all acknowledged that this, if I am correct in assuming.
I'm sorry, it is a information, but again,
okay. And the reason it's information is because the address due to the Brown Act could not be changed because the applicant, not the staff, made the mistake. So then we had to shift into an information item because he can't wait another 2 months so we're looking at it as input and as, the other one I can't explain.
Yeah, and so I think what should have been basically given to you as information, right, is that this is a preliminary review with the city of San Diego where we are selecting the plan district preliminary review checkbox, right? And so that allows us to go in front of you, right, and say, we know this is going to be a site development permit. We know it's a coastal permit, but when we actually come back to you after we've submitted this discretionary permit process, which is extremely delayed, right? The city is so behind that we just want to get a little bit of a head start on understanding if you, as the advisory board, would generally support this project, or is this design just completely, off the cuff, right? That's what we're trying to achieve here. And I think when we had spoken with Marlon, I don't know if there's actually that sort of option in the check boxes. It's like you're trying to get a site development permit approval / coastal, or is it trying to get a minor or major? Like there should be probably an item in there that's preliminary review commentary for eventual site development permit or something along those lines, right? And so
we all understand what's going.
Okay.
Here, so questions, comments. Somebody's talking, but I can't hear him. Phil, is that you? No.
Nope.
Okay.
I would say this looks pretty good. I mean, I don't see any major issues with it other than that it's a major project. And I mean, I would question the retaining wall. I guess you have to put a fair sized retaining wall where that pool is. And it looks like your overall height limit, I can't read the numbers, is between the red line and I guess where the pool doesn't count is only 40 feet.
Yeah, it's 40 feet.
Overall height limit is limited to 40 feet when you go down the hill like that. So that would be something to look at. But otherwise, there's rules, and I think one of the rules that we in the 21 code update was to conform to the citywide fence and retaining wall rules. So whatever that is, I can't remember now, but the size, the size of the retaining wall is limited, so it's not going to be a huge retaining wall, although there's several, that's one of the problems with several of these projects in La Jolla Shores that we questioned. But anyway, so that otherwise it looks like it's a very nice project, and it would be approved. We would approve it as you presented it, well articulated. Certainly bulk and scale fits with the area. I don't know. Anybody
Bill?
else have?
Bill?
Yeah, the only thing I would recommend, because I looked at the property from Whale Watch looking up towards the existing house, and it kind of looks like a ski run that's all the, without any trees. And if your architect or your landscape architect, maybe if they could make that slope a little more inviting with some type of plantings and stuff, that would be great.
Sure, that's a great recommendation.
And
I think it fits.
Yeah, I mean, the fact, well, I must note, so Bert had to leave, right?
I'm sorry, Kathleen, did you want me to make my point?
No, what I'm asking is, did Bert leave the meeting?
Oh, let's look.
Right,
Just a
Bert,
sec.
you're gone, okay.
Yeah, Bert's done.
I guess what I want to convey is, since he had to leave and is not able to give input, I'm just saying, I don't think anyone's saying that when you bring this back, we'll approve it without more detailed questions and things like that. You do understand that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm saying in
yeah.
general, it's, and I'm very impressed about your, already consulting the neighbors. I'm very familiar with the site from both the Whale Watch Way and the alley. And so in general, I don't have any problems with it as a major project. Devil is in the details later, but I'm sure it's so. Anyway, Kathleen, did you want to speak?
Yes, I think I'll repeat some of the others, but I'll be real quick. So it looks like some of this you have the show the average size of the square footage of the houses in the area, and also the setbacks, which it looks like you've done. Be sure your height calculations are correct. Sue's right. There's a lot of tricky parts going on there. Your landscape plan, you are in the hydrology there is an area of special biological significance. You're only moderate paleontologically, but you still should, the city will probably direct you to have a paleontological record search done by the Nat Museum. If the Coastal Commission agendas the 2021 Land Development Code update, and if they approve it, they certify it, the FAR, if I'm correct, the FAR of your lot, the limit would be 0.45. So this is just an informational thing, and it doesn't mean that's hard and fast, and it certainly doesn't mean that there wouldn't be exceptions. But I think it's worthwhile to let you know that that's on, that's out there. Again, you looked at the retaining wall size. I think, other than that, you got most of the details that you need, and it is an attractive project. Thank you.
Thank you. This is actually a great talking point because it is very ambiguous with how pools are treated on the backside of a hill, right? Because technically the pool is not a retaining wall, right? The pool is its own, it's its own structure, right? And this is actually the retaining wall, right? Right here on the inside of the pool. And so this is actually its own little, structure, right? It's got gunite, and you're all familiar with the pool, and so this whole element, right? There is mention of how a pool is in an overall height limit or not in this section, but it doesn't actually pertain in for our case, because it's basically works with the grade there. But if that could be clearer, for everybody. That's just going to make things easier to decide. Otherwise, we're just going off that coastal height limit from 5 feet of the building. And so then that gives us our datum point here that is, essentially allowing us to go up 40 feet because we have more than a 10-foot change. So from my understanding, you are looking at this from as a design aspect, right? How this pool, really fits into the whole element of the building itself, right? Because it's technically not a part of the structure height because of how this is portrayed in the information bulletin. So it would be great to just have a little bit more clarity on that, but ultimately, in our opinion, this pool fits in with just how far it's set back from the property lines and really how it's how it works.
Yeah, this pool, the other one was 2 pools. I mean, it was
Right.
tricky.
No, again, we're not all present at this point, but yeah, I understand the pool, what you're saying, and I don't have a problem with this at all. With the pool.
Okay, well, yeah, I honestly, I really appreciate you going over the time limit today and for your comments. Again, apologies for that mishap on the address. And so I'll talk with Marlon about trying to figure out what's the best route next time if we already know we're going to be a major project or not. I presented before the board, many times in the past, and so it's always a little bit tricky. I feel like coming in, just figuring out what's the best route to go.
And thank you very much for being the only project. You get a star for being the only project to give us plans in advance.
Hey, I'm really
don't forget
really
that.
glad.
So
You just got to get the right address,
That's
right?
what
That's
they asked the way I had to back out of the alley backwards because I didn't have the address.
Making it, that alley is really tricky. You have to.
I know, and I walked down it a million times, but
you have to back into the other or to the neighbor's driveway to get out. It's
they're not
tricky.
doing driveways when you go down to where the bar is. Anyway, I should have known. Anyway, thank you. And
all right, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time, and I know there won't be a meeting in December, so happy holidays to everyone, and we will hopefully see you in the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we have 2 months to rest up for the January 18th meeting.
Yep.
I hope that's long enough. Appreciate all your cooperation and everyone's comments. Phil, you have any question?
Yeah, I would like to say something after being on the board of La Jolla Shores Association for 3 years. This 2.5 hours went by so quickly, and you guys are so wonderful, and there's no negativity here. It just is a pleasure being on this board. I really, really appreciate it. I want you all to know that. Thank you so much.
Phil.
All of PRC.
Your expertise is very much appreciated. Your background, you have a great background for this. Sorry you had to wait 15,000 years to get on the board.
And you asked questions that I would normally ask, so I'm very glad you're here.
All right.
Right away. Thank you.
You just get them out of the way. So thank you. Well,
Thank you, Phil, for being on. Thank you for joining the board.
Yeah,
We
thank
also
you,
have the best-
Kathleen.
We have the best staff member ever.
Yay, Marlon.
Yay, Marlon.
Yeah.
That's,
All right, guys, I'm starving. I don't know about you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you
happy
next year.
holidays.
Next time.
Bye-bye.